All right, folks, we'll get started here. Thanks for attending the presentation. I'm going to talk about real-time turnarounds today. Specifically, I'm going to talk about what we've seen in the market with people using our G7 in real-time turnaround situations and in construction environments. So if you've seen the G7, this is the world's most powerful portable wearable safety device. It does gas detection, real-time safety alerts. We gather a lot of location data through this. So for analyzing the safety of your team and keeping people safe, it is a very powerful tool. So talk a little bit about Blackline safety. The company has been around for about 14 years. The management team, the leadership team at Blackline Safety has got about 500 years of gas detection experience. So what we've done here is we've taken a product from gas detection, and we've seen some of our leading customers, we've helped them solve problems with their turnaround. So on a turnaround, typically you've got a few thousand people working on a site. A lot of them were wearing gas detectors. So what I'm going to talk about here is what can you do that's a little different on a turnaround if you've got a device that has this type of power versus just having people running around with no type of location or communication technology on them. So the G7 is what I'm going to talk about today. Blackline was the first company to really come out with a fully connected solution. So we manufacture everything in-house. Everything that you'll see in this pod, with the exception of a few of the earmuff and accessory type devices over here, everything that's in here is stuff that we design. We run the server ourselves. So everything in here is under our control. And because of that, we can innovate very quickly. And that's really who we are as a company. We're really looking to innovate as much as we can in this space, wearable safety, and then doing more with the data that comes off of this. So G7 for real-time turnaround. So we've seen a lot of our leading customers in the energy space start to look at using the G7 and just use it on turnarounds and during construction of new projects that they have. And when we talk to them and we say, what is it about this that makes it a compelling solution in those cases? It's what it does already. So this is already a gas detector and a connected safety device. So you're able to keep your people safer than with a regular gas detector. You've got something on here that can send real-time alerts out. If I pull this latch, I can get awareness of that alert within seconds, and then I can have a monitoring team call me and talk to me right through the G7. So for your people on the site during a turnaround, if anybody ever has an incident, you've got literally within seconds you can start to respond. You know where they are, you know what happened, you can send the right responders really quickly. So that's kind of table stakes during a turnaround. You can keep people really safe. But what can you do after that? Well, push-to-talk communications on here. Well, we've seen a lot in turnarounds that not everybody has a radio on. They might not have budgets for Motorola radios for everybody. Great radio, but if they're already wearing something like this that already has push-to-talk, that's a really powerful tool. So now teams are able to vector their workforce in real time. If someone needs something over here, you can move people around in real time by communicating with them. The really interesting stuff starts happening when we start to look at the movement data and then integrating data from other sources and combining it with the data we get off the G7. So there's GPS in these devices, so you can now see the location of your workers. And as you're going through the turnaround in real time, you can see if people are where they are supposed to be. If you've got a permit, and there's supposed to be a team working in that area, are they in the right place? And I've worked turnarounds a lot, and I've seen a lot of incidents where people are even in the wrong area, or you've got work happening on top of other work. There's a lot of things you can detect when you start to see the location of this back in the control center. So the challenge in the turnaround, and I think part of what makes it really interesting for us, is that they're such intense projects. You're talking about thousands of people that run an extremely intense project schedule over a 10-day period of time. So the execution you need in these things is incredible. A lot of the workforce is really inexperienced.
Multi-gas and different levels, so you're working on a tank, you're at the bottom doing work, you're on top up there in the atmosphere, like say carbon and leach where there's cyanide, nitrogen sulfide, and you're monitoring the two levels as well. Does it do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time?
At the same time, yeah. So the question is, are you monitoring multiple gases at the same time, and can you tell at altitude? The answer is yes. So this device I have with me right now does not have gas detection on it, but if you look around the corner, you'll see our cartridges, and there's over 5,000 combinations of sensors you can put in there. We've got over 20 different sensor types. So whatever you need, pump, diffusion, PID, whatever gases you need, we can build that into the cartridge. All the units function the same way. Now you've got location of whatever gas you need in your environment, and you can see people at level. Calibration works as well, yeah. So some of the things you'll see on these turnarounds, in addition to keeping people safe, oh, here's a multi-gas unit right there. Pass it around if you want to put your hands on it. Finding consumables on site is a really big one. So in addition to this, now we've got a thing called a tool tag. And so I've got a team of people walking around with a G7 on. The tool tag is the thing you can see on the wall there. The tool tag communicates through Bluetooth, and now I can start to track where my tools are, where my consumables are on site, because I've got thousands of people walking around. I can now track whatever tools I want to. You don't have to track everything, but if you've got a pallet of gaskets, and gaskets always go missing on things, on turnarounds, you can now say, where is the pallet, or catalyst or whatever else. There's lots of these materials that are used on turnarounds tend to go missing, or they're just mislocated for some period of time. Keeping the project on time is really critical, keeping everyone safe. The big thing here really, though, is about improvements. It's about looking at the data, the movement data, and then making the plan better for next year. So understanding what happened in real time after the turnaround's done as well, and then saying, how do we make that better for next year? And that's the thing that really resonates with a lot of our customers. So what does G7 actually give you a turnaround? Like I said, you can spot potential project slips in real time. So you can have people now in the war room looking at the plan and then saying, yeah, we know that that team is running that permit. That's where they are. You can push to talk and talk to them. How is it going? A lot of times on these turnarounds, you don't get the communication back until maybe 3 hours. The team's 3 hours late now in opening up a boiler because everything was rusted shut, and you don't know for 3 hours. Now it's delayed everything else, but you can't work on the alternate plan for 3 hours, and that can really set you back. And that time is huge money on these jobs. Efficiently move your critical assets around. I talked about the tool tag, so now you can say, where are my critical assets? And if you're missing one, you can go find it quickly because you can see it on a server. You can see, oh, this is where the pallet is, this is where the catalyst is. Again, back to really the crux of this, the objective data for analysis is really the big one. And I'm going to show you a picture of this in a couple of slides of some of the examples of what we've done. And if you go over to our turnaround pod or our data science pod, you can see some incredible graphs that are showing you what we can do with the data we're getting off these devices. So safety managers and operations managers can figure out almost anything they want to figure out from these. This is the tool tag example I talked about. So we've got people wearing the G7 around, and these tool tags you can see on the side here are talking through Bluetooth to the wearables. So you're tracking people now, and you're tracking your assets on the job in real time. And as we start to go deeper into this, we're talking with companies about integrating this directly into project management software like Primavera. So you've got Primavera that tells you a list of tasks that have to be completed, and in real time now you can say the people are where they're supposed to be and they have the tools that they need. And I mean, the power of this is going to be amazing when we get to that point. So we're continually working towards this. So what we can do today: time on tools, time and area. So really simple. Everyone that's doing turnaround in construction likes to measure time on tools. How much time did people spend in the lunch tent, in the construction area, getting materials? How long were people standing in line at the permit shack? How long were people standing in line, over here? And you sort of have this subjective data on most jobs. Like, there's too many people standing in line for the tool shed. We need to speed that up. But now you've got actual data. You can quantify it, and you can make that better next year. No, there's no debate anymore. There's no forgetting it a year later. You've got the hard data that says, here's what happened. Workforce movement, so we can, again, measure time moving between zones. Sometimes people are moving all over a plant in a day. They're doing jobs all over the place, and maybe it makes more sense to try to keep them in one area. This is a really interesting one, supervisor to worker ratios. We've had companies tell us that their leading indicators say that when the ratio of workers to supervisors gets too high, so there's too many workers and not enough supervisors, that's when accidents happen. So we've started to analyze that. We've said, what was your plan on this job? What was the ratio you wanted to have? And we can show them all the areas, all the times, and all the places on the job where they violated their own ratio. And they can just go back and say, well, why did that happen? So we're just enabling people to have that conversation, to start looking into what's happening here. Scheduling integration I talked about. This is bringing it together with Primavera Pre-6. Actually, this is a really interesting one. Specifically, what we did in this one is we took timesheet data from a company, and we integrated that timesheet data from the company. We put it together with our time and zone data, and we said, here's how the billing lines up with where the company actually had its workers. And there's really high overlap there, but there's a couple cases where it's off. So then they can dig into that. And that benefits both sides, because sometimes these companies just spend a lot of time arguing. And who's got the truth? Nobody knows. So now all that stuff just vanishes. They come together like a lot faster. So both sides actually seem to really like that solution. Real-time safety is sort of the obvious one, maybe a less obvious one, again, that you can see at our data science pod, is explosive gas mapping. So on a job, a lot of the times that's when some of these detonations can happen. People are taking things out and there's pockets of gas. So how many times did you expose your team on the turnaround to gas that could have detonated? And again, go back and look at why did that happen? Was there any severe violations there, or this is a picture of what one of these graphs look like. We have literally hundreds of these different types of visuals that we've created for people. So, I mean, this is one way to visualize the time and zone that we found is pretty easy to digest. And all these things can be, kind of drilled into. So this donut graph here is really just showing the percentage of time that a specific contractor spent in the plant. So what we do is we take a map of the area, and within a few hours we can draw zones on the plant overlay, and then we can give that data back to the customer. They can drill right into the portal themselves and see this graph in real time. What percentage of time are people spending in different areas, and does it align with your plan? You can drill into it even on a person-by-person basis if you need to. You can filter by contractor, by company, by subcontractor, user groups. There's a lot of power here. You can really, really drill into this and figure out what's happening. So what's next? Again, this is all coming from actual customers. This is, we listen to our customers and we are actually solving their problems. So the asset integration has been a really highly requested one. The tool tag is not fully released yet. You can see a prototype it around the corner here. And talk to our team about exactly how that's going to work. Real-time project alerts. So I talked about the supervisor to worker ratio, and I talked about, after the turnaround, or maybe the day after, or within hours, we can show you what that ratio was. But in real time, if we can start to create these supervisor to worker alerts, you can get proactive leading indicators happening in real time. Alert right now in that zone, you've got 58 workers and no supervisors. So if you care about that, now you can do something about it. And of course, you can turn these alerts on and off. The project software integration is going on now with Primavera P6, and HR software integration is something that we're looking at. So having the users in the database so that when you show up for a job, you're really, really quickly assigning G7s to actual people. And that's it. That's the future of turnarounds. So if any of that piques your interest, step into our booth, have a look at one of our pods. The turnaround pod, the data science pod are probably really good places to start. And the future of connected worker here has things like the tool tag and Bluetooth headset integration for easy communication on big projects. So thank you everybody for stopping by. We're going to do a quick draw now.